But a lot of people don't understand parts of a data center. And so that's what I thought I'd help explain to people a little bit too. So we've got a data center here. This is Microsoft's data center. And there is a global infrastructure map that they have. And of course, they have the cloud because it shows where the cloud is that you can look at. And they show where they have data centers all over the world. Most companies don't do that. They want to keep their data center locations private. But Microsoft has, general locations where you'd expect to see things around the world in different locations in different areas. And all of these are interconnected by things like undersea cables. There's actually a company called Submarine Cable Map that shows the submarine cables that are all over the world. And they typically are laid by, cable laying, resources, special ships that lay cables. And it's something that is constantly being done. So that's what's creating all of this capability here. So if we go to take a tour and we go to the Microsoft Virtual Data Center, it takes us into the cloud. Kind of an interesting little video thing here. So we're going to enter the lobby, and the lobby is the portion you'd go to. Microsoft wants to make sure I'm a human here. The cloud is located in data center. Okay, so this is their part of their story lab effort. We live in the cloud. We can explore the lobby, and it's basically what you would expect. If you move your mouse back and forth, we can see different, areas of the lobby. We can actually scroll and see around here. These are actually entrances where you'd go from the lobby into the operations room. These are very highly secure locations that require you typically to go into a room and then you're released and go into another room. But the lobby is something that is accessible, from for anybody to go look at and be able to view if they're interested. And now Microsoft has these little videos here that they explain too, and we'll take a look at some of them at some point when we go through. So let's go from the lobby into the operations room. Okay. So the operations room is where the people that are running things take care of it. People don't work where the computers are located. They work in an operations room where they are able to manage everything from consoles. And so they've got cubicles, they've got, panels on the wall that show them the status of everything from the amount of data going in and out to what's happening in other data centers around the world. Because what they have, since these are all connected, if one data center couldn't operate, other data centers could take over at work. And so there's actually a backup process that they have for being able to make sure that they can run 24/7, even if they lose a data center because of a natural disaster or other things. So I haven't picked on these buttons here. Okay, so this is a little information here. As you click on these buttons, this is the facility team. They're monitoring telemetry for all equipment. They're using AI to help them manage it. They're using AI operations to reduce their staff. And so we can take a look around. Let's see what this one says. They have a project, one of them is their engineering reliability. So it predicts reliability and availability. We're going to look at the mechanical area next. How do they keep the cloud up and running? It's a little video that we can watch if we have time. These little blue dots will have things that'll explain what's going on in each area that you're looking at. Personal protective equipment, different things. They have HoloLens is data center experts conduct remote assisted operations, what means that they can maintain things from another location. So it's really a pretty interesting environment. So I'm just clicking on my mouse and dragging this around to take a look at different areas. Okay. And so I can actually even zoom in on some things if I scroll up or scroll down. They've got a little bit of animation here for some of the characters that are in here. What's this screen? So there's a little arrow here. The next room is the mechanical area. Let's go through the doorway here and go into the mechanical area. Well, the mechanical area is where the guts of keeping power and cooling and everything like that running are. There's a lot to it. So they have a lot of stuff that needs to be managed. This is a lot of equipment that's outside. This is one of the reasons data centers are so big, is that it just takes a lot of work to keep them running. What's this? This is the cooling, of a data center. So these are, temperature is really important, and they have to keep the air clean. And so they used what do they call it? Adiabatic cooling. It's very, it doesn't use a lot of water. And so they're showing how it evaporates, especially. So there's a lot of environmental controls that are going into making sure that data centers are interesting. I read that Microsoft was going to be investing about 80 billion dollars in data centers this year, a huge amount. Then they have these server racks. That's where actually the computers are located. Servers are the type of form factor, the physical shape of the computers that are kept and cool. And so they really have a lot that they can keep track of there. We're not going to go in the server room yet. Energy, they try and make sure they're renewable. These are big, issues in terms of making sure they create and try to minimize the environmental impact on these, because they do have a lot of need for resources and other things and waste, and disposing of things. Water is a requirement as well. So this whole environmental area is really important. They generate a lot of heat as well, and so they're redistributing this to other networks. They always have a little learn more link that'll take you to a website, to different places that'll show you more about it that you're interested in. They have a little video you can watch on some of these things to learn more about it, how they power it, if you're interested in watching more detail about it. But this is just a really big, heavy cooling, heating, solar panels, other things that are out there that basically enable them to run all the computers that are inside the data center. So the next thing is the server room. The server room is really what we think of as where they keep all these cloud computers. So when we use OneDrive, or when you're using Microsoft 365, or when you're downloading a new version of Windows, these are the servers are what are actually making this. Just a server is just another word for a computer, but it's a computer that typically has one purpose, and that's to fit into a rack and be very efficient. So if you wonder, well, Netflix is, or I mean, NVIDIA is selling all these, computers. These are all computers that are here. They're all in racks. They're all wired together in different ways, but they don't have monitors or keyboards. All of the monitors and keyboards are in the operations center, and they can actually log in and monitor any individual computer here directly from the operations center. You can see they've got a tremendous amount of wiring up in the ceiling here, all the internet cables and wiring racks that exist. This is where the guts of all the computing capability is. So they've got a lot of security, that they have capabilities of. This is, the hardware. They have over 4 million servers. That one of these individual little blades areas here that you see is considered a server. We'll zoom in on here, see if we can find one. Okay. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 servers. I don't know why it's 11. It's just the way the rack is built. This is a power supply for the servers above, and then there's, ones below. They're used by a lot of companies. They run, their brand name of their cloud service is called Azure, Azure. And that brand name is what they run it. And so they break down, I think they break down their income based on how much they generate from cloud Azure services. But Microsoft also has an agreement with OpenAI to run the data centers, for and provide data center capability for OpenAI, which makes 10 Chat GPT. So they handle a lot of transactions, a lot of capabilities. Let's see if we've got a little. These are virtual machines here that basically lets them use a single computer for many different functions and not just a single dedicated use or activity. But this is one of the more interesting things. Where does this enter the hot aisle? I have no idea what the hot aisle. Okay, so this is the back of it where all of the power supplies are on the back side of these. Okay, so this is the actual back side of these servers where they're connected up to power, and you can see the high voltage, warnings and things like that that you're looking at. What does this say? Okay, they want to reuse the heat. They generate a lot of heat. Computers get hot. If you ever had a laptop on your lap, it generates a lot of heat. They have these specialized power distribution units. So it's kind of interesting watching some of the investment news about AI because they kind of talk about it like the gold rush in California and Alaska is that there are people that get the gold. Okay, so if you look at Nvidia, or Amazon or Microsoft, they're getting the gold. They're the ones offering AI. But somebody's got to make these power units. Somebody's got to make these racks. Somebody's got to make the air conditioning. Somebody's got to make the power that powers these things and other things. So it's just an amazing amount of information that you can get about these, that you can find out through them. And this data center has these little buttons and dots, and you can always go to their website and learn more about what they're doing and how they do it. Okay, so just a lot of interesting tools that you can take a look at and that they've done with 3D imaging here to give you the ability to get through in different areas that you might be interested in and trying out and exploring. Okay, let's go to the Circular Center. I don't know why they call it that name, but that's their recycling center. Okay, so they basically are able to take the equipment once they are done with it. They disassemble it, they prepare it for recycling, pickup, and activity to be able to make sure they minimize. There's a lot of money in recycling too. A lot of electronic components have things. The network room, okay. The network room is where the data center connects to the network, primarily the internet. And so in order to get data, that cabling has to come from, say, the Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean onto a land point and then get moved from land, over, through buried cable to the data center. And the network room is where all of this cabling comes together. So these cables all go to different racks in the server room, or they go outside to different connections to the outside world. And so they invest in a lot of capacity for their network. So that's why they have so many cables. Some of these are fiber, some of them are um, copper, but they just have a tremendous amount of capacity. This is how data travels. If you're interested in any of these videos, let me know and we'll play them. But if you're ever curious, how does data travel over these cables?
Whether withdrawing cash, updating your medical records,
Can you hear that okay? Okay.
buying something online, or catching up with friends on Teams, you are using the cloud. But how does this information move from you to the Microsoft Cloud data centers and back? Traffic from internet service providers and telecom companies enters and exits the Microsoft global network at our edge nodes. Hundreds of these POPs are placed within milliseconds of global population centers. The data is encrypted on the Microsoft WAN, flowing across its hundreds of thousands of miles of fiber and subsea cable to the company's unrivaled number of data center regions, where the data is processed and stored. From AI to machine learning to next generation security, Azure services harness the power to the Microsoft Cloud to advance the boundaries of computing in new, more affordable, and sustainable ways. Using our availability zones, data is safely stored in not just one data center, but across multiple data centers in each region. And from the servers, information travels back out through the Microsoft network to users and edge devices around the world.
It's just a fascinating, infrastructure that you can have. Now there's satellites that exist as well. So it's not just like cables on the land.
Welcome to Azure Orbital. This ground station as a service offering is part of our network and is one of many ground stations that extend the reach of our cloud to space. It links businesses to satellites to support new data services and improve communications around the world.
This is an actual facility. These are photographs and 3D images of a real facility. I don't know where this specific one is located, but they have hundreds of these all over the world. Their videos say we live in the cloud. So, the whole idea is that more and more and more is happening around here that they're looking. So they're always innovating. This whole idea of, okay, we're using a desktop computer, or we're using Microsoft Word, or we're using Zoom. This whole thing depends on data centers to make it possible for us to do these things. And data center expertise is really, really important to making these things happen. So what have they got? They've got undersea data centers that they're working on. So this is what's going on in some of their research projects. I'm not getting, there's the audio.
To the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Known as Project Natick, this and previous drops tested the practicality and benefits of underwater data centers. The Natick vessel is over 40 feet long, loaded with 12 racks, and contains 864 servers. Natick's equipment failure rate is 1/8 the rate of data centers on land, where corrosion, temperature fluctuations, and human contact contribute to error. The Natick capsule is filled with nitrogen, which causes less damage to the servers over time than oxygen. Reliably cold underwater temperatures conserve resources by cooling the servers and helping to optimize energy usage. An undersea cable powers Natick with 100% renewable wind and solar energy from the local power grid. Project Natick began as an effort to sustainably provide cloud services to coastal populations, and now gives us a glimpse of what is possible for data centers in the future.
They're working with DNA molecules to see if they can store information and creating synthetic molecules. Here's their information on quantum computing. It's kind of interesting. I'm going to play this one, and it kind of helps explain a little bit about quantum computing.
The Microsoft Quantum Program is a global scale program focused on enabling commercial scale quantum computation. It's really about bringing quantum impact to people today and tomorrow.
Quantum computing has the opportunity to make an impact on the world right now in a revolutionary, game-changing way.
We're focused on developing every element of the quantum system, an end-to-end full-stack technology from the algorithms to the software stack to the hardware itself. To reach a commercial scale quantum computer, it requires revolutionary discoveries across physics, computer science, mathematics, material science,
all of which have to come together to make topological qubits and multi-topological qubit systems. We have a team that's spread across 8 labs around the world. Although we're spread out, we are one team working towards one goal.
Building a quantum computer is a huge task. It's all the way from the software all the way down to where we control the quantum states that makes up the qubits.
Here in the lab, we have fabrication technologies, nanotechnology that allows us to turn the dumb materials into smart devices.
The Microsoft Quantum program allows us to dream big.
Azure is the world's computer. You have access to the tools, services, and solutions in a very familiar environment. And with Azure Quantum, we're bringing quantum solutions forward to that environment. We're bringing quantum impact to your fingertips. We're working with enterprises and companies around the world, energy optimization, risk and financial analysis in medical diagnostics, to identify where quantum solutions will bring about impact for their businesses. A great example is Case Western Reserve University.
We're working with Azure Quantum to optimize the way that people get MRI scans. Patients have access to faster and better MRI scans in a way that wasn't possible before.
We can make those scans up to 3 times faster by using quantum solutions on classical hardware today.
The really high-level scientific goal is to be able to solve problems that we can't solve today.
Azure Quantum enables every developer, every person, every enterprise to really tap in and succeed in their businesses and their endeavors with quantum solutions. And that's incredibly powerful.
So, I mean, it's just amazing what you think of a company like Microsoft, and we think of just a couple of things we get from them, but they're doing all this work. And the same thing is not happening just with Microsoft. I mean, Google is doing this, Amazon is doing this, Apple is doing, this as well. And so they're really taking things to an incredible level of expertise and skills where they're doing some things that they're looking at doing and trying to get some approach to it. Let me go back a little bit here. I showed you the submarine map here. You can actually identify cables. This is called submarinecablemap.com. A couple of things that control where a data center goes. The data center goes wherever they have power. That's one of the things they need to work with. The aspects of the land and the permitting that they need to do. But one of the biggest demands on it is power. It doesn't take a lot of staff to run a data center, but it does take a lot of construction capability. So sometimes construction work will move in temporarily into an area to build a data center. They try and find an area that is less likely to be impacted by natural disasters like hurricanes and earthquakes and volcanoes and things like that. The power is probably one of the biggest issues of being able to get to a data center, of being able to power a data center. It takes a lot of energy to do it, and not a lot of people want a data center in an urban area, so they're typically locating them, and then they've got to make sure they can run the cabling for the internet connectivity, the data capability. And Microsoft and Google and Amazon, they all have their own network of cables that they own 100% of. And so there are such big cloud providers and data center providers, because increasingly, if you look at a company like, say, Pizza Hut, or Uber, or Macy's, or somebody, it's easier to pay somebody like Microsoft to run all your data center work for you and just buy it on a monthly service as a subscription than to build your own data centers, which is what companies used to do, or put your own equipment in data centers. And so that's become a huge part of their business increasingly. Is Microsoft, Amazon, and Google are all big companies that provide data center services. And you can actually even lease a virtual Windows computer. As long as you have a web access through, you can get a virtual Windows computer. I think they charge about $30 a month for it, is what they charge. But you don't need to actually have a physical Windows computer. And if you buy more, so for a company, rather than putting Windows desktops on everybody's desk, they could just put a web browser, a simple device on everybody's desk, and say, you're going to access Windows applications and all of our applications through the cloud, like Azure. And that's a huge business for those three companies. It's something we don't get to see very often. I thought, well, this would be interesting to take a little tour with everybody and see a few things, because when you go out, you say, gee, I want to get to my OneDrive or my Amazon Cloud, or where's my Gmail? it's all being run in facilities like this. Now, obviously, Google owns the facilities that run Google Drive and Gmail, but Amazon rents space, and Google rents space, and Microsoft rents space to all a lot of different companies. So it's a lot of people. You may be getting your orders from a retail store, from services, computing services that they're running with one of those three providers. And they're just so big that it's really hard for anybody else to compete against that right now. So it's becoming monopolized a little bit, but those three are the big competitors. Take care. All right. Bye, everybody.